We're waiting. Patiently. Okay. Is this part of the new system?
No.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay. There. I know it didn't say it, but it says it up top, so
Okay,
I'm trusting it.
okay. All right, good morning, everyone. June 6th, 2024, special meeting. Let's do a quick roll call. Rick, would you care to start?
I would. Rick Smith, alternate.
Herbert Turner, alternate.
Mike Capel, member.
Bill Spence, member.
John Racine, member.
Morgan Dean, member.
Catherine Brennan, member.
Co-alternate.
Rich Rita, ex officio, so.
Okay, and Tara Bamford is here with us. So Tara, you wanted to put screen? We go.
You can see person.
Oh, do we
See
have
if you, 1, 2, 3. Yeah,
6?
yeah. See
All right.
one.
Pick a lucky alternate.
All right, I'm gonna pick you there, young fellow.
You can thank me
I
later.
accept. That's it.
And that's in.
Those are big shoes to fill.
Yeah, Alan. Place name.
Oh, Alan Young fellow.
Yeah.
If nominated, I won't run.
Okay, so Tara has put up on the screen, something might be a little help. You can go right ahead. Oh, so by the way, this is the master plan action items. We're gonna review them. That's what this meeting's about.
We're waiting for what, Tara?
I think so. Can you hear us, Tara? I can't hear you yet.
I can hear you. I'm gonna screen share the spreadsheet, and I've added a column where I can put your notes as you go along.
Okay. So, but I would like you to just kind of kick it off a little bit for this is what the master plan action plan. Correct?
Review.
The review of it. And I think afterwards, we're gonna do a little handout of some things so we can, are we gonna vote on this next time, Tara?
So my recommendation that I hoped you would do is go through it every year.
Yeah.
Celebrate your accomplishments, but also identify your priorities for the coming year. And as you're doing that, you may see some that you want to kind of table, but I don't think there's any need to vote on it or update it or amend it until next time you're really amending the master plan.
Right, and that would be whatever we want to do, 5 or 10 years. I think it's suggested every 10 years.
But the goal at this point would be to make sure you're implementing it every year by picking a few things.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. That's why your sheet, we don't have that. And I wouldn't mind going over it because it looks like it's pretty good.
Why don't you have it? This is what's in the, it's the last chapter of the master plan, and it's a separate file that I sent you
Okay,
earlier.
got it.
Do you need it, John, or don't we print it out?
If-
Or-
Yeah, I think I,
Yeah, I assumed
that.
everybody
You
had
can-
it in hand, that I had sent it prior to the last meeting, I think.
On page 109 of the master plan.
Yeah. 2 people?
Yeah.
I still want to print out more than.
Wasn't
Oh,
it handed out at the last meeting?
No,
I
don't
thought
think
everybody
so.
got it for an earlier meeting.
but are guilty of not bringing it to that. Or unknown reasons.
Okay,
So
let
all
us proceed.
I'm showing is the spreadsheet that I used to make that last chapter of the master plan. So, and I sent
Yep.
it as a PDF some time ago.
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion?
Kathy.
Yeah, well, just while we're waiting, can we maybe go back and look at last year as far as any unfinished things like that we want to carry over into this year and kind of get, check that off and any other issues that are on people's mind while we're waiting, but and then we can go through the master plan when it comes in and see if new things come up. So like, I don't know if you guys want to talk about the dark sky, if that wants to roll forward or something like that. just to
Sure.
kinda
I
Tie
think
up
that's
any.
in the,
loose
I think
ends.
that's a master plan
I know.
action item.
Right,
Yeah, it
right.
is.
Action, yeah.
Like,
Okay,
just things
what's
that we
first
need
on
to-
the list there?
There you go, so. That's something
Yeah.
that we want to carry over, like, I mean,
I mean, I went through and highlighted the
Yeah.
ones that had planning board
Mhm.
and then like whether or not we had action.
Just,
Those sorts of.
all that,
On
okay,
court currently to replace it.
okay. So we
That's
have-
why I asked whether or not the picture and everything should be deleted from the master plan previously, and everybody said, no, we're gonna leave it in.
Yeah, no,
That's
I'd honestly be concerned about trying to maintain the master plan as an up-to-date, accurate document being a distraction from implementation.
Whatever.
If there are significant changes, we don't have to wait 5 years or 6 years.
No. I asked the question previously
Right,
and was told, don't worry about them. And I said,
Yeah.
fine.
for now, it's probably not that important.
When there's new topics, new emerging issues, sure, that's a time to update it, but not just because something gets out of date. That's just, you could be using the time to implement it.
You could reflect that in the.
But is the
Yeah.
goal of this meeting to pick 3 or 4 goals that we want to do this year and then get those subcommittees going? I remember it was maybe the April or May meeting last year where we did that.
Yeah.
And then, because time's ticking. So.
And now you're referring to the dark skies and.
I
you know,
just like, what, there's, and there was the CIP group, like, just so that everybody's
Yeah.
clear what the goals are for the next 9 months, I mean, until, town, if there's any, are we
Yeah.
gonna try and write anything new or not, or, just.
Yeah,
that's a good-
I think Wendy put that list together for the board's review as her last action to make sure things got followed up on. It's a good thing to do every spring, but better in June than not at all.
Yeah, she did. I think there's a couple more items that she suggested that we'll eventually get to.
Tackle.
But for now, we took the most important ones. Did you have, Morgan, did you have something that you was important to start with?
No, nothing jumped out at me.
But didn't you have one of the ones that for the action plan? Why don't we just take a look at dark skies? I mean,
Well, as I said, I think at the last meeting. I actually have done some more research since then, just
Okay.
talking to people. And I hate to pick on Black Bear, but I will because they are, I don't want to call them an offender, that's a bad word. But the issue, for example, with Black Bear, right, is that and they have a legitimate question that says they have people that show up to check in or leave at all hours. And therefore their parking lot has to be effectively on anytime it's dark. There are a couple of issues in talking to some people that can modify that. One is, for example, the same thing that we have at our garage, which basically says when someone walks through there's motion sensors that turn on the lights. Right? That can be done. It requires coin, as it's all things. If we want to do something like that, or if we want to have their lights modified in such a way that they are, Morgan, give me the right words here,
Deflected.
deflected,
There you go.
all right? That again requires coin. All of which means
Thank you,
that
Ryan.
we would have to go and Rich would have to fund. I don't mean Rich personally, but
Select board.
the select board would have to decide whether or not funding that is something that the select board / town would want to do.
And I believe Bill went to the select board meeting on our behalf and discussed
Mhm.
that.
And
Yeah, we're told to find a consultant. And revise the budget. That, as I said, it would probably takes. My approximation was 10,000. Yeah,
For the
that's for the
consultant?
consultant.
oh, yes. But the answer that is that in order to put motion sensors, which I think is the easiest answer that somebody told me. In a place like Black Bear, for example, and with the electrical wiring and all the rest of that stuff that would be required there, that in and of itself would be somewhere around 7,000, which shocked the hell out of me. But to do it for that whole parking lot, which I guess is what they said you would have to do for some reason, is a significant amount of money. I think we have to go to the select board and say, okay, are we willing to come up with more like, I mean, to do something and just to do a study and have the study then come back and say, okay, it's going to require another 20 grand,
That's it.
huh?
We came up with a number, 30,000.
Yeah, that's about the number that people hit me with. There's no sense in us even starting down this road unless or until, and I don't mean to pick on Rich, obviously, but I do like picking on Rich. Okay. Is that something that, and I don't know the answer to this question, that is a warrant article?
I would assume so. given
I would
the-
assume so.
The
I would-
size of the.
Yeah. I would assume so also.
The reaction that the select board gave to me when I made suggestions of that order, which was, one, hire a consultant, do a study, take their recommendations and act on them. We come up with a budget of 30,000, to which there were at least 2 objections out of the 3 people at the select board to say, we're not going to authorize that amount among the 3 of us. Take your problem to the voters, and if they say so, then we'll allocate the money.
Which,
So
going back to warrant article.
to bring it to the master plan, if you go to 8.3.13 on page 118. I think this comes under advocate for dark sky compliant lighting at the ski resort. I think in terms of Tara's box of accomplishment or lack thereof, I think you can say it's in process. You are in the process, planning board is in the process of, want to loosely translate or not the right word.
Well, except
Advocate.
13 says ski resort.
Well, 12 is ensure the town's outdoor lighting regulations are administered and
That's-
enforced, and then 13 is
A little
advocate. for
Right.
dark sky.
I don't know where
They're
it
both under
fits.
dark sky.
I understand what you're saying. I've read it.
That's the closest we've got.
But I think that the question is, and I think Rich and Bill have said it succinctly, is this is a warrant article item. We really have to put a warrant article together for the meeting next March.
March, yeah. Well, it depends on the process. If we were looking at, I think, just a few $1,000s to hire a consultant and get a study that we could bring, that, you know, we can use in a warrant and bring to the town. I think the select board would consider that, but we were hearing was that it's not, I think that was their proposal, right? That the planning board came to the select board with, the select board's response. I think there were two times,
Yes,
the plan.
I came twice.
And the select board thought that that was too low and that we were talking significantly more money, and therefore this would inevitably end up as part of a town warrant. So, but we're still looking for the cost of a consultant to see if that was in a
Yeah.
range where the select board would be comfortable authorizing that, so we can then study it and then decide
Yes, we
whether to
need,
bring it to town.
we need the consultant for the authoritative voice.
Right,
That somebody who knows what he's doing says, this is what you should do in order to
right,
make this a dark sky environment.
right. And one way to do it, if it's more money, I think then you wrap the whole thing in a warrant article.
Mhm.
I think would be the way to do it if we wanted, if the select board wanted to go down that path. But again, we're waiting on, the select board is waiting on figures, numbers,
Yeah, and the problem has
consider.
been to find somebody who wants to do work here in Waterville Valley.
Right,
Yeah,
so
Mark?
that was sort of at a standstill.
And the way to do that though is you've got to list off what you want that consultant to do. You have to agree
mhm,
to what. And then you can put it out as a request for proposals.
right,
Just do
Okay.
a formal process. So you can't just go and start cold calling engineering firms and saying, hey, would you like to work for Waterville Valley?
no, we sent them the,
RFP.
we talked to the consultants, who were, in discussion with us. We sent them the ordinance
Okay,
and said, we want to enforce
oh, okay.
these ordinances. And we want you to come to town and look at our town in a dark environment.
Yeah.
To you will find, and then what are your proposals to remedy them?
Correct. Okay, and that's fine, but if you put that down on a piece of paper, you can send it out to more engineering firms
Yeah.
in order to get that
Mhm.
prices.
But I would say since town meeting, we've done zip to advance that, but we were looking for those who have hung out their shingle to say, I'm a lighting consultant. And I would accept your idea to, let's talk to some engineering companies to see what they have to say.
There's all kinds of lists.
Yeah.
The state has on engineering firms that have been vetted for all kinds of different topics.
Right.
So.
Yeah,
Just point of information, do we actually have people that we feel are out of compliance with? Oh, we do,
Yeah, there's,
and we've been unable to enforce it.
well, mostly because they're grandfathered.
Grandfather.
And,
Oh, okay.
yeah, you know, they're,
All right.
all of the.
So they're
growers-
not out of compliance because they're grandfathered.
That's correct. That's right. I mean, they're out of compliance of the current regulations.
Right, so
You know,
we're-
big
We're
road-
taking on the role of being an advocate for them to change, even though they're not
That's right.
required
Yeah.
to.
That's why I keep using.
That was- Hence the we're just simply to on compliance with, and it's your problem. In other words, your responsibility financially to correct it. No, what we have to do is negotiate with people who say, look, I'm grandfathered, I don't have to do anything.
Mhm.
But the concept of the articles in our ordinance, that is, it's obvious that your grandfathered situation is not in compliance with what we intended to do with the dark sky ordinance. So that starts the discussion, and it inevitably resolves at, okay, I understand, I'll do something about it, or I'll correct it, but it's not gonna be at my expense.
That's Blackbeard's
Okay,
position.
gotcha.
Is this mostly
right.
mostly commercial that's out of compliance, or are we
Yeah.
talking?
Yes.
The condo
Condo
association.
That there may be other individuals, but the most prevalent is clearly the condo associations and hotels.
I mean, there's some new, I think it's pictures, it's going in and out, and I'm passionate about this particular issue. Of some residences that have added to their property, they've done some certain things, one of them is a neighbor of a friend over here. Who just, you know, he leaves he or she, I don't know who it is, leaves every light on in their place, which they can do, it's inside their house, there's no rules about that, as far as I know. But they also have built additional structures on their property that have lights that point all over the place, or whatever they're, like to see the snow on the tree while they're sitting in their sauna or whatever else, and I don't think we've done anything about that. Has there been a walkabout, you know, at night during peak, you know, use of our valley here to see, you know, where we have those problems? And I believe where there's Like, I have a neighbor who's got spotlights that they put out, did their place, and these spotlights point right at my house, for whatever reason, I have no idea, maybe they like.
Maybe they love you.
fireplace.
They want to see you.
But,
Yeah.
But those are the
Okay.
kinds of things that if you just send an email or call in, we will investigate.
Yeah, code enforcement,
And
so you,
code enforcement will, it is very difficult to do all of the inspections all day and everything else and be here at night as well.
Doing that as well.
It is not a PD function. It's not a law enforcement function. It's a code enforcement function. Will take to know about.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the types of things that we need to know. It's the same thing as when condo associations replace their lights without getting a permit or whatever. Unless Dave happens to be driving by and says, wow, those look new.
Mhm.
He's not gonna know about it unless someone tells him.
So
And it's a community-wide thing to try to get them to try to make sure people are being compliant with new regs.
Just to bring this back to the master plan. This discussion, I think, is 8.3.12 on page 118.
I agree.
And ensure the town's outdoor lighting regs are administered and enforced. Planning board, code enforcement, and select board are all the primary. I think we can put some language in there that says the planning board urges the select board and the residents to pursue enforcement of, or some kind of language like that.
yeah.
And we can move on to other topics, because we have a lot of topics here.
Yeah, let's get it.
Well,
Yeah, oh, there we go.
So I added what I've been hearing has been done. But we should, I haven't heard you guys land on clear next steps. Like, okay, what are you gonna do to find a consultant and get that money? What are the next steps? 'Cause this is the action plan. What do you wanna do next? And who's gonna do it?
Well, we still have the dark skies working group,
Mhm.
so.
Is there a problem finding a lighting consultant to get an estimate or have you not really been able to identify the
Yeah,
steps you want them to do?
So the closest one we found, so I reached out to the dark sky, like New Hampshire Dark Skies, I don't even remember what it's called. And they pointed us to a consultant in Colorado. So there's really not many in this area. I mean, we might be able to find some in the Boston area. But it didn't, when we searched, we didn't seem to find much.
yeah, the people that I spoke to are people that I know that do things, but they're installers, they're not consultants. And you know, I knew them from my former life when they were doing work for developers that were my clients. They're not coming up here to do that. But you know, when I talked to them, they said, well, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. I said, well, you come up and look at it. They said, no, we don't do that up there. I said, okay, but
But that's
So
the
this is-
kind of person I would recommend finding is, look at some newer developments with parking lot lighting, who they used a lighting consultant and yeah, a lighting consultant is gonna be the person that designs the lighting plan for approval and there isn't, I could see why you couldn't find someone who's just a consultant, that they're gonna be usually the installers.
who we talk, what do you want
I'm
to?
thinking, so Green Peak Condos,
Yes.
right next to you.
Yeah,
And
that's
Tina's
where I
on-
live.
Yes, Tina's on the board, right? She's the president
Well, she is of our three.
of your
units.
three, okay. So I'm just wondering if we can reach out to the other people. And
The-
see who they use for their lighting.
They
And
don't have,
maybe in-
they're
in
only lighting
surrounding
that.
towns
the
though,
other
too.
21 units.
Okay,
Mark,
alright, so that's.
I would. just-
There's a big commercial development that's just gone in Plymouth. That their planning office should be able to tell you who did the lighting plan. I think those are gonna be the kind of consultants that you need. That if you were designing dark sky compliant lighting for these different parking lots, what would it look like and what would it cost?
Mark, you had
Dark
something?
Skies Group has already done a lot of work, just write that down. what questions you asked whoever you've talked to so far. Get it on a piece of paper, what you want them to do. Go to architectural firms, go to, like Tara suggested, find other developments that have happened, and then just get that information to those people and say, are you interested in working up here? And how much would it be? But I do a little more of a formal process so you can do some comparisons. Make sure that they're looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
So you don't get wildly different estimates, right?
Okay.
I
say
think,
okay
I think
because
the
we're
key
it.
thing is, if you're, like Mark just said, you wanna look for lighting designers, not dark sky consultants specifically. Cause all lighting designers now are having to design lighting for towns with dark sky regulations.
Rick, you have,
Just like, cause I wasn't here, I think when a lot of this was done, is there an inventory where we feel like people are out of, or certain lighting is out of compliance? Have we done that walk around with the rules in hand and said, that doesn't look like it meets the.
No, we would have to do that.
Well, what,
I mean.
I did
yeah.
that. I didn't go on to all of the houses, that'd be brutal. But all of the major condo associations / hotels, I did that walk around. And I would say it's obvious, the vast majority of them are out of compliance. But they're not out of compliance because they're grandfathered. When did we find out these ordinance went in?
2018, 2018.
2018. So basically, anything that went in before 2018 is grandfathered.
Is it possible to contact folks who are still building Green Peak to see, assuming that they are compliant as their new construction with our dark sky ordinance in zoning to see
You have to
who they're
remember,
using?
there is no, other than the lighting in
Mhm.
the garages, there are no lighting that they are putting in.
No outside lighting.
No, there's no light, in other words,
Mm.
the Devereaux Way extension or whatever you wanna call it, there's gonna be no lighting on that road.
There's spotlights on the last building to the right, so if you're looking at your house, the last building to the right, there's a spotlight on it above the garage. That I don't believe is motion sensor.
On Gorwood.
Don't talk about specifics.
This, Thomas, I can tell you
We
that
got a lot
the
of-
house,
We
the
do. We should
garage
have
things
that
there
on the-
are not motion sensor.
All right, so back to my question, you
No,
did the
we
walk
don't.
around,
We do not have.
all right, so I feel like that, if for nothing else, in order to give a consultant, like, here's what we got for situations here, how would we address these things? And what would that cost? We need that inventory first.
Okay, so the dark sky working group has a lot of things to do. I've written them down, so I think
Right,
Safe
that
to
can
move
be-
on.
That can be transferred to
the
the
term-
action plan for that Gary is putting together, or the elements of what you wrote.
I mean, I think we're a 1 mile square town, I don't think it'll take, I'll walk around and do this, I might need somebody else, like,
Recorded.
agree with me to say, yeah, that looks like that's a problem based on the ordinance or whatever. But, happy to doing that halfway.
are we ready to move on to the next one?
You're hereby appointed as a member of the Dark Sky Group.
One, I had to say one
Yeah.
last thing. I heard through the great today that the resort, what's the name of the, no, the resort association or
WVA.
The VRA, resort, yeah.
is allocated a bit of additional for more lighting like we have in the winter season.
Yeah.
With some very specific things about where they'd like to add additional lighting and whatever else. I don't know if that's
Those are exempted from our seasonal lighting is exempted from our zoning.
Well, I think when we talk about seasonal, are we talking about holiday seasonal?
Yes,
Not-
that's,
So
yeah, you're talking about
last
something
year,
else.
the lights that were up around town square were up until ski season was over. That's, if we're talking ski seasonal, then fine, but
Yeah, I think that
Right.
generally, as I recall, it's been from like December through the end of March
Okay.
for
Yeah.
that seasonal lighting.
We had that discussion when it first went up.
They had site
yeah,
plan
2 years ago.
approval.
Okay,
And-
so Morgan has a list of what the dark skies, what you guys have to do to,
And I just
Work on
emailed it
that.
to Tara.
Can you
The-
just look
the
at what I
action plan
wrote
next
and
week.
tell me what else to add there, or? I wrote, next step for working group is to list specific questions, tasks, problem locations, and reach out to lighting designers for estimates.
Yeah, and we need to make a document so that we can share and compare the consultants. And do an inventory, that's it.
All right, I'll look at your email out when we're done and beef this up.
Moving on.
okay.
Want to go back to the top?
Yeah, I probably should.
Work our way down.
Got a little bit higher. I go to 8.1 to general, is that what you're talking about, Rich?
Yeah, I'd say if you just roll down wherever the planning board is the responsible party. General, I don't know if we could,
Nothing. It's require our immediate attention.
No, I think you've done that with the public meetings for the housing amendment.
Yeah,
Yep,
that'd be a good one.
that was fine.
One decision is your community. Discussion about housing.
Well,
Anything else on that first page? Follow up to 8.2, recreation.
On 8.2.1. Mark, what is the status, if I'm not being out of whatever?
are you just jumping around, or?
do you want us to go with one by one?
So we finished 8.1.
Yeah, I thought you were going through the ones that list the planning board, like 8.1 number 3. I don't think you've done anything on,
Yeah,
and it was
Well-
tasked to the town core working group.
I mean, we could apply to AARP's age-friendly community program and get that designation.
Well, this comes back to, are we a senior community?
We don't have to be.
No, that's not for seniors, and that's the key thing about AARP's age-friendly community program is they're trying to make the point that accessibility is accessibility for everybody, including a young family with a baby carriage or stroller.
Yeah, when you go to that website and it lists, like, there's an interactive map. Yeah, so like Tamworth has it and they've put in their master plan or their action plan, not unlike what we have to say, we need to increase middle housing stock and things like that. That's part of it. So it's not necessarily just AARP. But I mean, I think you can apply to that. I just don't know if we want to, if we need to.
Do you want
What's the
exploring that as this year's action item? Exploring the possibility of applying to the program?
I think we could do that and we can roll through all of these and then at some point we have to go back and prioritize.
Yeah,
Because there are many things that we probably can do, but
Mm.
how many of it can we, practically speaking, actually accomplish?
maybe we're gonna have some more meetings.
So I think exploring the possibility gives us the wiggle room to prioritize whether we want to put, wherever we want to put that particular action.
And the planning board doesn't have to do all of them. You have the town core working group.
No,
You
right.
could ask, you could simply ask them. "Hey,
That-
if you have time to do this,
Right.
could you please apply for this program or investigate it and report
Right,
what the deal is, right? I mean.
So do you
So-
want me to put, the working group to investigate and then
Yeah.
report
Yeah.
back to the planning board?
is it a planning board working group or has it become a select board working group?
The town core working group is from originally from the
From
planning.
The planning board,
Yeah.
and so it's still a planning board,
I think it has its own, really.
Right.
space. Whoever, there's no control
okay,
of it. We have representatives from the select board, from the planning board. Purposely to integrate them into
Right.
everything.
So we're
So
not
they
meeting
should,
next.
so they should probably report back to both the planning board and select board.
week.
Right.
Email.
so I guess
June 18th.
So,
I'm getting at asking the working group to explore.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you can take it back to the town core working
Sure.
group and talk to them.
So we have a
See.
meeting on, it's being rescheduled, it was supposed to be next week, but I think it's gonna go to the 18th, sorry, but, yeah, I will bring that up.
And then you're celebrating too, Kara said, so we've done one, or we're continuing to do number one,
Mhm,
we're continuing to do number 4, we're
mhm,
continuing to do number 5.
mhm.
You're doing it right now. So, I mean, those are things you can put in the checkoff boxes that we are doing
Ongoing.
actively.
I'm gonna ask you. We'll go back.
Oh, yeah. We're not,
Be number 7 on the recreation will be the next one.
So this meeting today is kind of the substitute for number 5. It's not really of all the town boards, so that might be something to try to set up next spring.
Well, the
The
board, the
meeting.
select board used the action plan for their strategic planning meeting. So we reviewed a bunch of items that pertain to the select.
I don't know.
Yeah, the select board can check that off. But
No, I meant the
mean,
annual meeting of the boards, kind of,
Right,
it's even better to have this meeting joint with the select board and conservation commission. So maybe that's something to think about next spring.
and I think. 8.2, 5, and 6 are ongoing.
Well, 8.2.3 being done.
We're not listed on.
We are, well, no, I know, but as far as, is it looking at the people who are responsible for it, they are doing it. The rec
I'm-
director
You guys
is
are going
on
too
the
fast
WB.
for me.
So we went back to 8.2, number 3.
Huh?
It is being done.
Ongoing.
The rec director is on the WVRA board
This is.
and reports regularly on what they're doing. Eight two two, can I just back up to that? There. I tend to support the. Center was fully funded. Along with other not. The Shaken Valley was in all region. There's a line item in the budget that was fully funded, so we are supporting nonprofits. on a regular basis.
Are we doing something other than just the planning board items?
I don't know why we're talking
Just-
about. I mean, if we go on down all these items, we'll be here until Saturday. So,
Yeah, I thought we just
Number 5, okay,
to the
sorry.
planning board.
I retract everything I said.
no, it's whatever, but,
Well, this is a planning board document. too.
It is.
right.
So I think 5 and 6 are going.
Seven's one that we're the planning board responsible parties.
Well, like I said at the outset, I asked Tim about it, and basically his answer to me was. We tore it down, which was actually a good thing. And they have no current plans to replace it. So I think that, you know, if it's going to happen, it probably has to happen outside of. I mean, we can talk to the resort.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Do we know that they're not looking for an alternative location?
I asked him. I specifically. The answer was they have no current plans. That doesn't mean they're gonna change their mind, but if we look at the design over there, which I guess is Terrell, not the resort, but they kind of intertwine, there is nothing there.
Okay.
So that currently there is no plan by the resort to do it and or Terrell, which kind of intertwine with each other. I don't know what plans the town may or may not have, but that's for another day.
Can we just put review at a later date in there?
Yeah, resort has no current plans to
Yeah.
replace. I think that's great.
That's,
Okay.
yeah,
That's fine.
that's fine.
That does that, yeah.
We can keep going.
Yeah,
Put it in your backyard, Margaret.
No, I was just,
Well, you can
they're
go-
putting in an outdoor center. Terrell is, and we don't know what's going there, but it doesn't matter.
Right, as of now, that's a very, very conceptual.
Right.
Yes, okay,
You like
so
to go?
8.2, number 8 has planning board listed.
Are we the primary?
No, we are not the primary.
So move on.
Looks like 8.216 is the next one where the planning board's working group is the primary.
See,
Yeah.
so planning board is the primary.
Well, the
Primary.
planning board's working group.
Constantly, right?
Yeah. And I'll bring this up to,
Create with, what is it? With other land use agreement. Yes, so they've done that, right?
I
That's,
think the issue there, the last I recall, discussion, council working group was that. We need, Tyrell is doing a lot of development on both sides of the pond that would impact the Levitt Loop, I think is what we wanna call it. As well as the cost of a bridge,
Right,
going across Snows Brook as it enters into the pond. I don't know if there've been any further discussions. I think we were kind of waiting to see what's gonna happen with development.
right.
That may shift the trail along.
Yes, the answer is
Easement or something.
resort / Terrell is doing things.
Yeah.
We'll wait.
Work to cooperate with owner operator support. I'm sorry, wrong one. The town, what number was it?
16.
16.
Thank you. Oh, my screen moved on me. There we go. Thank you very much. That we are. I think cooperating, I suppose you can put it, but. It's tied to the development plans that are gonna happen around the pond.
yeah, I think private development will drive this.
There we go. Thank you, Tara.
I mean, the only discussions we, again, has been just about safety of from Golden Eagle down into that area, just making sure there's the salt and all. I mean, that's.
Okay.
The next one is also led by the town core working group.
Yeah.
17.
That's
It's ongoing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Next would be 20.
I think you've done, I've heard you do that when you're reviewing development applications.
Remember, we did it for the villas, right? We went out there, did a site walk,
Yeah, and talk to the,
explained how they were gonna maintain, was it the roadside? cross-country
yeah, and we
trail?
talked to the town about plowing, we talked to
Yeah.
the groomers and, yeah.
I mean, the planning board certainly did that.
Yep.
There have been discussions, I'm not sure if with the planning board or maybe with the conservation commission and select board about the pond loop trail as it was relocated and goes around that new house.
Mm,
yeah,
It's the last one on the.
lost one
on
on
the south
on
end,
Golden
on the right
Heights.
as you're looking at
Yeah,
it.
Golden Heights Extension or whatever the hell that
They
thing
had
is
4
called.
lots in a row.
yeah.
So like I
That's
say, it's
all-
ongoing.
That, but it's basically done. I mean, we were on that trail all winter and it's functioning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
So I think we can say ongoing and it's integrated and reviewed. Yeah, we've done it. Okay.
looks like the next is 8.3, number 6 on page 117.
I suggest. If this. Because.
It's
This
a big
is-
deal.
This is a big deal.
Yeah.
Very big deal and potentially cost coin.
So establish a working group,
For stormwater.
6 and 7, 836 and 837.
So those are things that I would work with a working group or the planning board. So it's, you'd have to ask kind of Mark and John whether you have that in this year's, have time in this year's budget. 'Cause these are things I've written and can just give you examples to start with.
We do have the budget. I just
So
got it
is
out.
it something you want the planning board overall to think about or a working group?
Well, only I would encourage a working group first with town staff and the Conservation Commission.
Yeah,
And because Conservation Commission has also been talking about water issues and including stormwater and erosion control measures. So I think we would need to kind of narrow the conversation. I wouldn't, it's pretty complicated.
Yep.
And Tara, correct me if I'm wrong, but the state is considering changing regulations to modify stormwater management and perhaps make it mandatory in every town.
Under the EPA permit or changing the AOT regulations? I think,
That's changing, well, they've done both, they've
Yeah.
done the T regulation changes. And I think they're talking about formalizing stormwater management requirements across the state. So, anyway, that's the rumors we've been hearing.
I've heard the same.
but we could maybe put it like this, and is it helpful if I work with that working group?
yes, I think so. Absolutely. Everyone agree with that? Sure.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
Number 7, I was already asked by the planning board to do, after this town meeting, when there were gonna be some other changes to the site plan regulations to make, so I already have that on my list to do this year. I have a list.
Ongoing?
I have a list of changes to the site plan regulations that you've already talked about, that we were just waiting to, for the town meeting and the HUP grant to be done. So that's already on my list.
Just ask a quick question. So this would be related to any new development and or changes to an existing piece of property would basically fall.
Your audio is not as good
So, no,
this morning as it usually is. I'm missing about every other word.
One way
We've
down
got
there.
two.
Well,
Yeah, we
yeah,
have-
sorry.
I didn't realize.
You got it, Mark?
So I just asked if this was just related to whether we have any new development or changes to an existing piece of property that would affect stormwater.
Well,
drainage.
both.
Well,
This would affect anything that comes in front of you for site plan review. And what we talked about was, you know, that what the kind of best practice now is to put language in the site plan regulations that says the volume and velocity of stormwater leaving the site can't be any more than it was before the development,
So the reason
They
why I'm
have-
asking. so-
that they
so
have
we
to
had-
deal with it on site.
We had the storms in December. Where I'm certain lots of people in the neighborhood had a lot more stormwater drainage on their property and maybe or changed the way the property drained stormwater in the past and maybe created some problems with our roads, whatever else. We can't do anything about that.
Yes,
We can.
if we adopt a stormwater management plan, it would go beyond just future development. It would include all of our existing drainage, all of our culverts, all of our drainage ditches. You know, we have catch basins all over town. They all should be integrated. That's why it talks about getting an engineer
Okay,
in to work on it.
all right.
That's why I have town staff participate in that discussion as well,
Okay,
because it affects the sewer department and the public works department,
If it's having an adverse
if it's having adverse effects.
impact. That's
Well,
right.
and so once the town stormwater plan is done and culverts are resized and all, this piece of the site plan regulations would ensure that a development can't come around and increase the runoff.
Tara, I have a quick question for you on this particular subject. Would we not want to involve the Conservation Commission with this?
Yeah, I don't think so.
But I don't see it in
Six
there.
and seven. Concom.
It's,
What-
it's
Well,
up
these
to
are
you.
planning
It's pretty standard language that I wrote for a state model that I'd show you and have you think about like which level of storm you want it sized to. And that might be something the Conservation Commission would be helpful with, as well as town staff.
You could list them in both, not, the planning board would still remain the lead.
Well, maybe if we did a working group, we could involve the Conservation.
I
Commission.
really don't think you need a working group for the site plan amendment. This is a really standard thing. This is a really boilerplate thing that you're missing.
Okay,
Planning board.
But when it, you know, whether it's a 50-year or 100 or whatever, that, you know, that's really the only piece that you need to talk about.
Are we on number 9, 839?
839.
Page 117.
Feel like this was done.
Have we done?
I don't know.
This again, if the board decided to do it, is something that there's really common, established, well-defended language to to show you. It's not a starting from scratch. It's a, here's what 10 other towns have kind of thing.
Sure, if we're looking at zoning amendment.
I think we better do it, yeah.
Okay.
Could we have like on our next meeting, Tara present the, you know,
The standard wording.
like, yeah,
Well, usually late in summer, we start looking at all the zoning amendments
Right.
that we
Okay.
want to consider bringing forward, then we spend the fall going back and forth about
Yeah.
which ones to include, so it could be part of that process, would you agree, Sarah?
Yeah, late summer's good. As you know, I always want to see you have your second public hearing before the holidays, and you never do. It would be nice, nice to pull it off once.
We'll make it aspirational this year. And once again, aspirational.
So we'll say August,
Sure,
give that one a date.
Yes. That would be good.
Hold me
Well, are
accountable.
there- this one, and then you said the site one, the site plan regulation one you said was pretty standard too, right, Kara?
Yes,
Okay.
but that's not, we're not talking.
Oh, we not wanna see that as well? John?
yeah, I mean, I already have, that was something I was already asked to do for the planning board once the HUB grant stuff is done.
Yeah.
Is that a matter of scheduling, Tara? To discuss your list?
Let's put August there too.
Right. Yeah.
That way it'll get on my work plan.
Yeah.
And with dark skies, 8, 3, 12, and 13. 7, 8, 3, 17.
So wait, on those, that dark sky stuff, items, the guys are clear on what you have to do. And then we'll get,
I think.
Okay.
Written, and I'm gonna talk to Morgan more about it,
okay,
what language to put there.
Yeah, I can't really see an email while I'm on anything but my phone while I'm on here, so I'll look after.
I just sent you a picture of my notes.
Yeah.
Fine.
What was 8, 3, 13? What do we mean by the ski resort? Does anyone call?
Oh, that's in there because you can't tell them what to do on their leased land in the forest. So all you can do is be an advocate for it. That's why enforcement is in 12 and advocacy is in
Right.
13.
Okay.
Right.
We could go to the Forest Service and say, hey, they've got lights up on their summit that they shouldn't have. Because the Forest Service has specific rules of dark sky as well.
We do that, that would be
That's a personal.
I think that's it.
that'd be great, that would be a contentious step to take, is there particular lights?
Contentious, confrontational.
It could be seen as that too.
Well, maybe not. I mean, they might just be on and nobody shut them off either. I mean.
I mean, you're talking about like lights around the building, I mean, you're not talking
No,
about. the
not
lights
around
with
the.
Well, there's one
not
on the
around
summit
lodge.
that's on all the
Summit
time.
light, and there's one that's probably a third, maybe a little higher up than that, that's been on this summer that I don't recall ever seeing before, so I don't know.
Maybe we can ask about it.
Yeah,
Be
because.
first step.
I just haven't seen Tim, or else I would have asked him what that
Right.
was.
Is that for like, I'm just thinking about like for airplanes, if you're on a mountain and there's a building here and they're not necessarily gonna see it, do you have to have that, like, I don't know, right? I mean.
No, but we see helicopters there periodically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, no, maybe the Dark Skies Working Group can inquire about the lighting on,
I'm happy to reach out to Tim.
at the ski, well, you're now a member of the Dark Skies Working Group, so now you have an official imprimatur.
I just haven't seen him, or else I would have asked.
Just ask what that lighting is, because you're not talking about the groomers out there at night or.
No,
Yeah, but they're not there now.
There's two lights that are there now that haven't been there since.
Yeah, there's a-
winter.
Alright.
There's
These
also-
lights are
oh,
on every night.
Okay, investigate,
I mean-
inquire.
I know that Tim listens to all of these double speed, so
Oh,
Tim,
cool.
if you're listening.
Rick will be coming to talk to you and ask what those lights are.
I think that the normal lighting that they have around the ski lodge is mostly security and whatever, I understand that.
Yeah.
Something that's what they do.
Security security is an issue with lighting, so for example, the light, those.
There's the-
Semi-offensive lights on the golf club's garage. Alright, when I spoke to Craig about it, he said. I have to leave those lights on, it makes kids think that there's somebody there, because we've had people come in and do minor vandalism and everything else with some of the things that are in there. I can, that,
So,
Well,
right, but in doing our research with the Dark Sky Working Group, all the studies that have been done show that lighting actually increases crime because they can see what they're doing. So, I mean, give or
I'll tell
take,
you what,
right?
you can go.
I'd have to have a discussion occur at the Dark Sky Working Group.
Moving on, page 120.
Thank you.
8.317. A big one.
Go right
Yeah.
to 17, yeah.
A long one, yeah.
8.
Well, we do that,
Why am I
don't
so
we?
low? China.
I continue to review the site design and building design and proposed developments to ensure it is appropriate to the context. That's ongoing, right?
Right.
I mean,
Sure.
when we look at site plan review,
our job.
I hope so.
Yes, but this is, largely aspirational. We've run into this difficulty a couple of times where. We've had people here from the public complaining about the planning board's inability to correct or arrest. Their view, that is, it's their view, but as example, foliage, the amount of
Right, we had that at the villas, for example.
that's right.
We had a lot of parking,
Where what's written
landscaping.
in the ordinance
Mhm.
is largely aspirational.
And,
Would we
and that's
like
why
the-
this,
the
Bill, that's why this one ends with reviewing the regulations to make sure they're adequate for doing that. I can't get it up on the screen for some reason, but my thought is,
I understand. But what are we gonna do? Say, you're gonna have to plant this many trees per square yard
We can't
of
do
your
that.
property?
well, I don't think that's the conversation for today. I think the conversation for today is whether you already feel like you have a lot on your plate for this year and want to look at those regulations next year or what? Because that is the end, the last sentence in 17 is to review the language of your regulations.
That's where I'm going in this conversation, that unless we become very specific. of foliage that's intended or needed in any development. I think that within our ordinances are aspirational, where we're asking the developer to kindly do as we request. But until an ordinance says that you must do this many trees and this many shrubs, I don't think we can force a developer to do otherwise.
Right, and that's why it says to look at your regulations, and I've been bringing this up every year in the 7 years I've been working with you, that your site plan regulations are entirely aspirational, which makes it really tough to talk about things like noise impacts, for example. I would love to see you have what I consider real site plan regulations that have specifics about landscaping, lighting, building design, all that kind of thing.
Okay,
You're the only town I've ever seen that has a site plan regulation document that is totally dependent on the zoning ordinance with no other requirements. So to me, that's a bigger project than the tweaks to the site plan regs we've talked about for this year, and would be a great project for next year.
Let's put that down.
yeah, I agree entirely, because I think that we'll have more confrontational discussions like this in the future if we don't do this.
You just, I don't know what the history of it was, but it's frustrating when I review projects for you and I know there are concerns, but you don't really have site plan regulations. You have site plan goals on the first page and then everything goes back to the zoning. So,
All right,
yeah.
can I make a quick suggestion? Instead of after next year, can you put 2025
oh yeah, thank you.
Or 6.
or before I have
Yeah.
Good,
all of our-
good point.
Smart goals.
that way we'll be sure to say, oh yeah, this year rather than.
That would be our.
And
big-
it would be helpful at budget time to already see what you've identified for next year's work.
Thank you.
That would be our number one project, would take up most of our working energy to make that happen.
But I think
Yeah,
we
that
need to
could
make
be
sure we
six,
get it in.
6 months for sure.
Great.
Yeah,
Is 18 the same?
18, 19,
19,
20. 20 is probably different.
18 certainly.
So I'm gonna put this
Similar,
same thing
yeah.
in those places, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
I have a question,
Yep.
go back and read it. And my buddy is pointing at that over there. Is that a development? I would say yes, it is.
Well, it could be a series of developments, I would expect.
Is what
Now it's gonna come to the planning
About the
board.
Tyrell
Yeah.
drawing?
I would say that is a development.
Conceptual.
But if they just put up a hotel, is that a development?
Of course.
Yeah, I think they're gonna come to us in pieces with it. I don't
Yeah.
think they're gonna present the planning board with the whole thing
Right.
at once.
It's like a
Right.
kind
to be in pieces.
plan.
That drawing to me represents a
I
concept.
mean, Tara, you've had extensive discussions about this, right? So is that their plan still, do you know?
Yes. The concept plan is always evolving and they would come for approval for each little piece.
Before they
So I
get-
go back and ask the question,
Mhm.
is a hotel a development?
Yes, development as
Alright.
far as land use regulations is
Yeah,
any building
all I-
activity.
It was a yes or no question. The answer is yes.
Yes,
Do they need to get their easements before they can do any of this?
And that, instead of asking for. Instead of.
Well,
Forgiveness.
are they gonna put the gondola in first or the hotel in first?
Chicken or the egg?
I mean,
Planning
if they,
board.
exactly, but my point is, if they need an easement. I don't wanna do the chicken and the egg thing. If they need an easement, I think we need to see that first. Before they do a hotel here, and it's too late to do anything.
An easement though for what? I mean,
Aerial rights.
Airway.
there's
That's with that development.
that.
That's not a
If I
town
wanna
thing,
do
I'm sorry,
something
that's-
over you, that doesn't come to us.
But is
goes
it
to you.
just the gondola? They're talking about getting rid of whatever road that is.
Well, they'll have to come to the town, the village road.
am I missing where we're at here in the?
Yeah.
we're getting a little too
We are
far
off
out.
topic.
Yes, so we were talking about landscaping, but we can come back to Alan's points at some point.
I really am concerned about you guys talking about a specific potential development without noticing it and having the applicant there.
Me too.
So, for 18 and 19 and 20, consider visual impacts and road design. I mean, that's ongoing.
I think that's
Same.
ongoing, right?
All right.
Yeah,
And continue to participate in the North Country Scenic Byway.
Who's the rep on that? Mark,
On number 20.
He stepped out. I'm not sure, I can check.
I did it for about a year and a half.
I
you
think
wanna
it
make
may-
sure that that is ongoing, that whoever the rep is going to meetings.
Yeah, I did that for about a year and a half and then.
I think it
got
may
too
be
busy and
our
other things.
road agent,
Megan?
Megan. But I'll have to check on that.
Are we sure it's ongoing?
Well, when Mark comes back, we can just move on and just come back to this one.
Okay, I'll just put it with a
Question
question.
mark, okay.
And the reason I said it's important, every few years DOT threatens to de-designate the byway in any towns without active membership on the byway council.
Oh, really?
What's a byway?
Well, in other words, when you go on to 49. And you see the sign there that calls it a scenic byway, so
I see.
49 is designated. I got this is one of the reasons. It's designated as a scenic byway, if you see the sign that's there.
Yep.
So that used to be covered, and I got them uncovered, so it says it, but then I went away and did other things, but.
So
We can check
I
on that.
wrote
Go
the
back on that.
current, I wrote the current byway plan that's now gonna be updated, and it's a state scenic byway, but it's a federal funding opportunity. There's periodically funding available for things like signage and kiosks and other visitor services along the road, so it's a good thing to hold on to.
Mark is the treasurer of the board,
Of the
North Country
Oh, good.
Scenic
I didn't know
Highway
that.
Council.
I think he's treasurer of North Country Council. And
Okay.
the Scenic Byway Council is a subcommittee of that group.
All right, hold on.
Already knows where to look.
Remember this discussion.
We'll go, I put it with a question so we can go back to it.
Alright, so the next with planning board is on page 124, 8.44.
8.41,
One,
What did I miss, Lynn?
We should have one there.
1, 2, and
North
3.
Dakota is also on
Skip that
that.
page.
So it's Mark, our town manager is
Yeah.
is our rep.
Okay.
was that back to the byway?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. I remember a discussion
All right, 8.841 is planning board.
Yeah.
to Megan, but that's fine.
Yeah, I think you're doing that. I think that's definitely ongoing.
Yep.
I don't see anybody else from Waterville Valley.
Two, continue to participate.
A lot of people on.
I'm not sure who's doing number 2, 842.
I haven't seen
I
a
didn't know that
10-year
was a
plan
thing.
for a couple of years, I think,
Which section are we on now?
82842.
Let's say that I'll check on the
Hey,
status or I'll check with Mark. I can't type. This is when you see what a bad typist I am. Okay, one of us will check on the status and kind of report back. This 8.43, it was discovered that there was a map. And so amending it wasn't necessary.
Oh, okay, so.
So it's done.
Yeah.
We got a check
Okay.
mark.
can I ask us a quick question about that? I thought I saw something about a land swap deal related to up beyond the chairlift down to the Cascades.
Was
And
that,
potentially the piece of property over there.
Private property, right,
So
with the
it's-
Forest Service.
So the Forest Service gets the land down to the Cascade path. And we potentially have that piece of property over here.
Well, it's Tyrell owns what's colloquially known as the Hammerhead, which is that bit of property that comes off.
Yeah, it's sort of in the middle of nowhere.
It goes out to the Cascades.
Yeah,
That used to be the water, as I understand it, that used to be the source of water in Waterville Valley many decades ago. They own that property and they've engaged the Forest Service of swapping that with Forest Service land, which is at the corner of Triple I and Valley, as you first come in.
Hmm.
In other words, the land right over here. And they're engaged in discussions with the Forest Service about it, they came to the select board and asked the select board for a letter of support, which I believe we've given them, or in the process of finishing. I
So
can't.
it's this one on the other side of the bridge?
No, it's the corner of Triple I,
Over here.
Where the
Triple I
sign
and
is.
Valleys. You first come into town,
Okay,
there's
That's
that
from the current campground.
across from the current campground,
okay.
all that undeveloped area on the right as you're driving.
So,
towards-
yeah.
so coming down from their admission center, or whatever you wanna call it, business.
No,
No.
no,
No,
Triple I,
triple I.
from
Right on here.
Triple I and Valleys, when you
Right
first
on.
enter the
What
town.
what are they gonna do with it?
That
Who's the-
depends what you decide to zone it.
Right, if they acquire it, we'd have to figure out how to zone it.
That's interesting.
Right now, it's White Mountain National Forest land. To get 4 acres, something like that, I think.
That's a lot.
Bridge will cross when we come.
We tried to buy it a while ago,
And they-
1 million for it or something.
Right. So that's,
Okay, so that's nothing to do with this.
That's
particular-
right.
Not at this
That's
point.
the one- Okay.
if they were to acquire the land, Tyrell, then we'd have to zone it. Other than-
Yeah, you'll need to do a
Gotta
zoning
be a
amendment
reason you
then.
Want the land.
Yeah,
Alright, we have
Gotta-
45 minutes
Yeah.
left.
Can we move on to the next one? 8.45? Or did we do 4?
Review
Did
the
you
allowed use
do
of
number
special-
4? I can't remember now.
I think we were just talking about it.
No, I
geez,
mean,
no,
did we-
no.
We didn't do
No.
that zoning amendment?
So that should be for this year?
Yeah, I think that's something, I don't think we did that zoning amendment
No,
for special civic.
Right,
So 2024 and 2025.
That maybe add to the list
Yeah.
of this year, perhaps, depending on how long the list is. 844. Have to see how long the work list at some point is.
Right. Could have sworn we did it.
You know, it feels like we were talking about like concerts and
No.
stuff, but that wasn't, that was
No,
separate from
This is
this.
special civic.
Yeah.
I don't know if we did it.
I don't remember us doing.
Maybe we did, Tara. None of us seem to remember doing it.
No.
I think we
wish
did not.
We talked about why it was included, but
Yes.
well, I'll have a look after.
I don't think we ever talked about the removal of the contractor yard.
No. All right, so that will go on the list
Especially
for,
the-
Oh, right.
The
I mean, the one
acquisition
that-
over here that's on. the
Well,
other-
we wanted to clean it up. It shouldn't be in special civic, I think, is we talked about things like that,
Yeah,
but we didn't follow
we
through
didn't
with
do
any
it, that's correct,
amendment to what's allowed.
Right, so we will follow
allowed
through
uses
this
in the
year.
zone.
understood.
next is stay abreast of future development. Oh no, support the efforts of the resort for the gondola.
What number is that?
845, page 124.
So I think that's where the discussion of the easement came in.
Yep.
Well, the easement is a select board issue.
Yeah, and that's why the select board is one of the leads here.
That's something that the select board does.
Didn't they already do it? I thought they approved.
We've given we've given Tyrell a letter of intent. Which says that the select board will bring forward a town meeting. Either an easement for aerial rights over Osceola Road. And would support such a easement in town meeting.
It has to be voted on it.
Was it town meeting or was it a public hearing? No, I'm afraid it wasn't town meeting, it's a public hearing, I'm
Okay.
sorry. Getting confused here, that we would, once they move forward. And I think we're working on we're waiting for them to give us this precise language for the easement, but that was a select board power,
I disagree.
okay? Bring it up with the select board.
I will.
They were putting in the 10-year limit, right?
So the letter of intent was to hold a public hearing on the easement?
The letter, so that, what happened, Tara, is that the Forest Service required the town, excuse me, Tyrell to acquire, the easement approvals, or at least a letter of intent from any private owners or any owners of property, that easement would be required, aerial right easement would be required for, the gondola, and there are two. There's one town, condo association, and then there's the town. So in discussions with Tyrell, the select board sent them a letter of intent that they were going to pass to the Forest Service, which stated that the select board is in favor of granting the easement. However, it's conditioned upon a public hearing and a final vote and the final language of the easement. I believe there was, I think, a 10-year, we time limited it. I don't remember what the time limit was.
Yeah, Bob wanted a 10-year.
Was it-
Bob, I think Bob Freeze was the one who asked.
Yeah, for 10-year. And there's one other aspect to it. But that was essentially it. Oh, yes, and we mentioned in the letter of intent that that this was, the reason that we were supporting it was because it's reflected in the master plan as something that the town wanted to do, and also it's reflected in zoning as a permitted use. So we're waiting for them to come back with an actual, when the time comes. It could be years, 2, 3, whatever years.
Okay,
That was the select board action. I'm not sure what the planning board action would be at this point.
I don't think the planning board has anything to do with that.
yeah, when it gets in town and it needs the landing, that's site plan review.
Right, at that point, yeah,
Okay, but they're trying to build a structure. Yeah, I agree.
when they bring it to the board.
Soon as they're off Forest Service land, it's site plan review.
Mhm. If that's okay, number 7,
Or 6.
6,
6, I'm sorry, 6.
Ongoing?
About 7.
and that's something we're gonna talk more about next month. I mean, at the next week.
Yeah,
Yeah, ongoing.
Would number 7 be an August discussion when we look at all the zoning ordinance amendments we want to do?
Hey, could somebody define for me what, I didn't know what all the verbiage was about the erosion hazard, what is that exactly?
Those are areas,
The
some have been mapped in the state and some haven't by a expert in looking at riverbanks and identifying where erosion is most likely to occur.
Tara, I have a
Look at
question.
this.
And they're mapped, if they're mapped in accord with the state guidelines, then we can roll them into a zoning ordinance.
I have a question. What about a seasonal spring? And I always think, and I talk to John about it all the time, about that lot on off the Golden Heights area between where that great big house at the end and where the Keeves are, that lot. I don't know who owns that lot. But there's a whatever that goes right through that. And kind of accumulates erosion down at the bottom, right before where Pond Loop kind of comes in. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I've always been very concerned about that.
I think Barry Fish owned it, but I believe he sold it.
I
And
don't know.
so, and so that, the answer is no, this wouldn't apply to that. This would only apply to mapped floodplain areas in the map that FEMA provides the town and the town
That's right.
adopts. And
the-
in
yeah.
mapped, mapped by a fluvial erosion study.
I understand the
These
answer is no.
more local issues are things you should be looking at as part of site plan and subdivision review.
Find out. He said nothing, so-
Yes, but you just have to tell me where it is and what GIS.
Doesn't the Conservation Commission own
Wait,
that?
do you know where the keys live?
Yeah.
Right next to them, between that and the big house at the end, there's a lot.
So right, this
That's
is
really a subdivision or site plan issue.
So, so this is the one at the end.
The
That's
one at the
That's
end is
on the August.
You were the one that sits on Bull Hill.
No,
Did you have a question on this number
Nope, I got
seven?
answered, but, and so we put it on for August.
Okay.
see,
Move on.
Yeah, you're right.
this lot, this is the keys lot, see this lot, there's a spring that goes right through it.
You did this with the HOP grant.
Okay.
Which
This
one?
one's completed with the HOP grant.
8.4, 8.48, thank you.
Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead. 8.48 was done with the HOP grant.
This is the one about the.
Okay,
Yeah, but I
So-
know where that
so,
is. I know.
I think
I know.
Morgan or someone talked about that
That's
we
for
maybe
a
go back and look at that. I forget the amendment number, it was maybe 9. but
Maybe I don't know.
that we tabled,
I don't know what lot you're.
The
talking about.
setbacks.
the setback
Okay.
one, and whether or not we want to approach that
You know,
with either different language or maybe any changes that we think or might be able to sell that a little more to the town. I don't know if Morgan, you caught that, bit.
I'm sorry.
So
Well,
Would-
so Kayla and I were asked to meet with the landowner, one of the landowners leading the opposition to that, to see if we could come up with some alternative approach that might be acceptable to those landowners, and we really didn't come up, we had the meeting, but really didn't come up with anything.
And when that piece of land is for sale, or was, I don't know if it's still there. Paul Bedaro's land was for sale. Which is, yeah. What is that, moves around right there, next to the golf course, that road. So then there's the Flynn's house, I believe, and then that piece of land was for sale next to it.
yeah,
right,
they got-
between the villas of,
Yes,
between the villas and the house up
yep,
on Lost Path Road,
That
the undeveloped
that used
plot of
to,
land.
that she used to, yeah, that you own, huh?
Jen?
That Jenny used to own. And when she sold off, that was different, yeah.
so what was your question, Rich?
So, we were just saying that we sort of did that, and then we're talking about 8.48.
8.48.
And I thought that, one of the things we maybe wanted to do is go back and look at amendment, was it 9 maybe?
Yeah, I
forget
think you're
which-
right. I mean, I would love to do that, but I'm just one person.
Review that, but I think, Tara was saying that they sort of struck out a little bit with trying to work with a couple of the objectors, or at least one
Right,
of them.
Kayla and I, you guys asked Kayla and I to meet with Jenny, and it was a good constructive meeting, but we really didn't come up with anything that she felt the landowners would support. So I would just leave it for now.
I mean, she sold her house, so it's a different.
Yeah, and I was aware at the time that was coming.
Okay,
But we had, there were other people up there in particular, and I can think of a couple that would be against this as well, and unless we came up with, some alternatives that could make it more attractive, I don't think.
Yeah.
Well,
so. At town meeting and. A fair portion of people, and I don't remember the exact numbers, voted against one of the most basic ones we had in there, that was Dave Noise's permitting one. And I'm not sure how we educate people on that, like, we were bringing that into compliance and people were still voting against it, so that's,
Compliance with the state.
yeah, so
Which is
there's
amazing.
the, how do we educate versus when we spoke with our town council. Which he did not think that wigwag articles were a great idea, so how do you balance that? And I think that would be part of this conversation. Which is obviously a much bigger conversation, but I would like to revisit it.
What objective you're talking about now?
You mean on the action plan?
They voted against,
Remember Chief Noyes came in and we had a public hearing about bringing the permitting into compliance with the state. And there were a fair amount of people that voted against it.
Voted against it.
It was-
But-
Even though it was
But
outdated.
your,
even though
but your
there's no
point
other
is
for it.
that.
There was
we-
a significant number of people that would,
Right.
yeah.
I think Rick is
we,
gonna something.
we tabled the setback amendment because we weren't comfortable going with the opposition that we were getting, but I think your point is better advertising, more information. We likely could get that passed if we had people
So
more.
do we want to put it back on the,
That was my question.
I'd say yes,
say
put it
yes.
on the agenda, it's something just we discuss. I thought.
Yeah, I
Zoning
think it's
and-
worthwhile. I mean, I
Yeah.
think people don't fully understand that. Have Jugtown and so
But I
I
mean,
think there's.
as long as, I want to get it on the agenda for the planning board, you may decide not to go forward with it. But at least let's discuss it.
Yeah,
Do you want to put July or August?
Well, I think we were looking at zoning amendments
Or August.
for August.
I think you remember, Rick, that the principal objector was one who said that he believed that the setback change would reduce the value of his property.
how do we combat that?
And
I'm happy to talk about that in August. That's,
he subsequently sold the property.
it's. I've never heard of a zoning amendment being successfully challenged based on its effect on property values. All zoning amendments affect property
Yeah.
values.
So,
Right, I think the onus of proof is on the person who brings that argument, not necessarily us.
Or even any owns.
Zoning amendments affect property values. It's okay.
that, you can't do it.
Yeah, but
Alright, so that should go back on the agenda, we're just not sure when.
Well, we would
I'll
talk.
put it in August, and August you can decide whether you're up for it or want to put it to next year.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, where are we now?
it was 8.48.
Looking for
Is it moved 8.49?
9.
9. Which is, goes hand in hand with 8.
Well, we do carefully consider.
Right, continue.
Yeah, I'll
Okay,
put
I'll
that as
sound like-
ongoing, because it's something you did a lot of this past year, and you'll continue when it's relevant.
Same, because you said for 10.
Same with 10.
10, you're gonna talk about next week. Right, that's, there
Okay.
may be an opportunity for active support for that resort housing on forest land. I'm gonna put it ongoing.
Ongoing, but for the agenda for next week.
Yeah.
Talk.
I'll put ongoing, possible master plan amendment to strengthen, is being considered.
Okay.
That's what we talked about at the last meeting that you asked me to draft for next week. I think 11's ongoing, but encourage is one of those aspirational things.
Yeah,
This has not gone anywhere. 12 is,
Yeah,
just,
I mean. That will be a zoning amendment discussion,
Oh, do we
right?
read it here?
yeah. And you kind of tabled it and said it needs more, like rolling up your sleeves with the landowners.
Mhm.
But every time we've talked about eliminating 1 and 2 family homes in VC, it's just not gone anywhere.
Because of the planning board or because of public input or both?
Well, I'll be frank, because when this planning board hears opposition, it gets frightened.
Mhm.
It's.
That's what I've seen in a lot of these controversial amendments. and it got worse when one was voted down a few years ago.
I mean, I would like to see more of a conversation on these.
Yeah.
12
I would
is it
too.
12 and 13.
So the 12 and 13, do we
Yeah.
want to roll this into our discussion in August?
Yeah.
See to what extent we want to pursue these,
Yes.
this upcoming town meeting?
We all agreed to go into August for the,
I'm asking, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I would
Yeah.
support that.
Yeah,
okay,
If you get applicants for August, you might need a special meeting just to talk about regulations.
Okay, is July booked already or July meeting?
we have some things for
Okay,
July.
okay.
What happened?
Yeah, July, I wouldn't really have time to prepare
Okay,
It's not much.
material for you for July, cause I'm on vacation around that time.
gotcha.
Yeah, and I think number 14 is ongoing. The vibrancy of the village is really the core of what we do.
Wait, I gotta get this in 13 here, yeah, okay, so ongoing here. I think you've done 15 with that, like that lighting thing in the winter. Here's an example. That you kind of gave them a pass
Seasonal lighting,
on the lighting.
Yeah. So, 16.
Because you haven't really had the opportunity to do this yet, but,
Yeah, no.
not 16, they haven't come forward with it.
right? So that's kind of driven by the development applications, will be driven by development applications.
17 become passe, they never seem to work, these companies all seem to fold.
But they did a WeWork type space there.
The question is why?
Okay, sorry, say that again.
Workspace of the.
Which was,
No, either.
so they do have a shared workspace, so in
In
Town Square,
that's still,
and people are using it, I know my neighbor uses it all the time.
Yeah.
that's still an ongoing
It's in
thing.
the old.
A couple families from
Old meeting room.
where Sanger used to be, I think.
No, as opposed to a business that's doing it.
Yeah,
They
I
always
just,
tend
I
to
wondered,
fail,
I guess
right.
I had the same question though, as
Yeah.
whether or not this is really a
Planning.
planning board problem.
No, it's
Well, it is
support.
if so, there's an application, there's a cafe in another community that's also gonna be a shared workspace. We don't really look at our zoning list of uses and see that yet, right? We don't have shared workspaces, so I think supporting it is having a broad interpretation of some of the zoning use categories.
So existing businesses using their commercial property as shared workspaces, which we really don't mention in our zoning. Is that what you're saying, Tara?
Right.
Okay. I get it now.
Wouldn't see this as a priority for, like, we don't really have anything to do other than to continue to support it.
Yeah,
Right, aspirational.
that's fine.
But it's not right. I think in our approval, this is an allowed, it's not a home occupation, right?
Right.
Residential, so what would it be for commercial? Is that what you're
I
saying?
think we
should
have to kind of consider it as accessory to
use?
businesses.
Okay. And
I think that's how
okay.
you support it.
I mean, do we list in as an accessory use, shared workspace?
No, but
Is
it
that
fits the
were going
definition
with
we have
this?
now.
Okay,
But it could, I mean, but we say professional and business offices, so as a stand,
That-
if somebody was
why not?
just
No.
starting a space just for that, I think we'd call it professional and business offices. If we were trying to be supportive. I think that's how
Okay.
you're supportive, is how you interpret some of these things.
We just haven't had an opportunity really to.
Right, nobody's come in and said they wanna open one.
Right. Okay.
That's driven by applications then again.
In the meantime. Commercial properties are using like towns.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
That was number 17.
18.
Oh, 17.
Continue
Oh,
to
we're on
encourage
18.
small independent businesses.
So here's a question. You've got a group of own multiple businesses went up for sale and we were like, we don't really want a conglomerate, but like on a very small sense of that word. Or like say the common man wanted to open up something here.
Wait, but what, you
Wait,
already have some-
like what I'm
you already
saying,
have
where,
somebody that owns 3 businesses.
yeah, where, what I'm saying is, what, do we have to say no to that? Like, if somebody's selling a business and somebody else is gonna buy it, then how does that feed into this? We can
Just-
encourage it, but we can't stop
You're
it.
talking
from
about the
happening.
practicality of.
You can't, you're right, you can't regulate ownership.
Do that.
I think you do this by making sure that you're not adopting regulations that would be a hardship to a small business.
That's the point, I think, of 18.
Can you,
Like,
We encourage by not adopting regulation. Go ahead.
and you amended the site plan regulations to have an exempt and minor category, so that's something that's helpful to the smaller businesses.
okay,
I'd put ongoing. I think you are, I hear that you are always thinking about the small business when you do things.
Mhm. Nineteen is ongoing.
20.
2021.
All of these things we do all the time.
Mhm.
We try anyway, right?
Right, and number 22, we literally just did with Chris
Yes, yeah.
at the golf course.
Just basically, no.
We try,
We,
the board tries. We on to capital improvements.
Mhm.
8.5.
That's ongoing. You do that every
We
year.
do. Nope. Every fund needed in eight.
And that's, wait, Morgan and Bill are.
Morgan, Bill and Rob Wilson.
Okay.
Looks like you're down to 8.58 then.
Additional public transportation linkage.
We haven't done anything.
what would you do? I don't know what that, I don't know what that means.
Well, so we have the chef's bus.
Right.
That's a private public partnership, so.
But I'm saying that, I'm now looking. At the linkage, what?
A town square and a shuttle. So. You think about there's the senior center has a bus,
Yeah.
maybe creating a stop
I mean,
here
it's
for
senior
that.
center in
Plymouth.
Plymouth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
we
connect,
just done anything on this.
so was that a priority? Probably not.
It'd be nice, you said worker shuttle,
Yeah, that's what's written.
the worker
Right.
shuttle. Could be interesting if you could, I don't know where they'd be shuttled from.
Oh,
other
the
than
resort
maybe
is, some of the businesses are looking at housing in Campton and Thornton. That's
I-
what I
I
meant when
know-
I wrote the shuttle bus for employees from neighboring towns.
I know that they are looking at. Some type of worker housing. Adjacent to Waterville Valley.
Mhm.
The
Because-
Shoes bus is already used for that purpose. They, and they have in the past had housing in Plymouth. They would go
Right.
down, pick them up, bring them.
The,
up
the
from
resort,
rotation.
the resort has.
They use the Shoes bus to take
Yeah.
them shopping if they need to or whatever.
Right.
So that, on a public-private partnership, we are doing
Okay,
Shoes buses allowed to go out of town.
and since we're on this topic, I think I'd be remiss not to discuss students.
What about it?
From this
Oh,
to
the
the
high
high school.
What about it?
That I think that is, there are people in the community that have voiced that they want this to happen,
Well,
and
yeah,
I don't know if
but-
that's a planning board even, is it?
But if that was.
If it were
Changing
transportation.
hats, all right? That has not come up to the school board in years.
I'm
Well, I was at a
pretty sure it just
meeting a
happened.
few months ago where it was brought up
Yeah.
and it was said that it was too, you know, it's
It's
cost
expen-
prohibitive.
well,
It's
it's cost
prohibitive.
cost
I
prohibitive,
think
and
what
that
Mike
was the
means to
answer.
say that it
And
was
did.
raised at a school district meeting and it was voted down.
Yeah, I mean, basically,
5 years ago, 6 years ago.
No, this was this year.
we've
No, no, this was
we've
at
looked at
school
the cost, the
district
cost
meeting.
is
Yeah.
a lot.
That was the answer.
I mean, maybe now that we have,
yeah.
or we'll have 12, I think 11 or 12
This-
kids, but even then,
Yeah.
talking to some of them. It turns out a lot of these kids wind up with their own cars and everything else.
Yeah,
This
This
is
is,
public transportation linkages.
Nah,
I mean, you can't, you know,
This
there's
is
a
off
stop
the
in
sub-
Thornton, but.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a little off the subject.
Yeah.
But I just gotta say, if the kids get bused down to Chickenboro, can they get on the bus there for the high
There's one in
school?
Thornton, there's one down at the,
They
in
can.
Campton too,
I think it's
there are bus stops that are just not water. You
But-
do have to go, you know, I mean. And they're able to get on and like, that's always like a backup for my kids, you know. Or, you know, anybody can get on those buses from the high school, but. I guess this is
That's
just-
fine.
Yeah, yeah,
I think, and we're looking at, point 8, right? Additional public transportation. We've not included in that description, busing, school busing.
Okay. So it's not there.
It's,
That's fine. I just
that's
wanted to
always
ask.
been, that's been a school board function. And as I said, they did bring it to a vote a number of years ago and it went down pretty badly, as I recall. I mean, they've had
Part-time
discuss-
bus drivers, period.
and they've had discussions at the school board since then, but I think the school board's been reluctant to pursue it, given the resistance encountered a number of years ago, but it's not part of what we were discussing
Okay,
here.
There were some efforts to get the actual Concord Trailways bus to come into the valley to help support the resort.
Right, that's what this is.
That's what
This
this,
is, right.
yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah.
because
Like Gordon
the
Research
Concord
Office.
Trailways actually comes to Plymouth
it
once a
does.
week. Twice a week?
No, a couple.
Once a day.
Once a day. I think.
It's every
There's a
day.
pickup,
Yeah, it's every day.
early morning pickup and
Yeah.
then late drop.
Yeah,
off.
I mean, but I mean,
So we were looking at trying to encourage that because North Country Council has been trying to increase public transportation connections.
Okay,
So I think the original start of this was
was that?
at that level. But the senior busing and stuff was part of the discussion.
Yeah.
How much need is there for a connection to Plymouth specifically?
Yeah.
For shopping, doctor's appointments, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so far, we just haven't needed it,
I think we've not done anything on,
and we haven't done.
as far as
anything.
this particular element is concerned, we haven't done anything.
We haven't done anything, it's not necessarily a priority, given the weight of the other things that we're also discussing, so how do we put that into the action?
What about monitor need for senior shuttle?
Yeah,
Okay,
That sounds great.
Bill's
That's good.
a white space on the page.
There are nonprofits that coordinate rides for
yes, there are.
Yeah.
Yep,
veterans and
if
senior.
people need it.
Yeah.
I mean, this years go on, this could be a big thing, especially if we get more development in the valley, because
Right,
there's no way to get here other than by private,
right.
essentially, private vehicle.
Tara, before we go on to number 9. I'd like to make a suggestion to everyone that we go back to, we had a couple of questions for Mark. When
yeah.
you were out for a minute, it was 8.321. I think. 8.42,
Oh, the byway,
yeah, the byway.
Byway Council.
who's our rep?
Me,
You're the rep? Oh, okay.
and I would love to have someone else do it.
Did we
It
discuss-
is and it's a surprisingly active group. There are grant opportunities that the Historical Society could use to do things along Route 49 because it is a designated scenic byway.
No cemetery or Wild
Um,
Road.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that we could do, but I, quite frankly, I go to one meeting a year when they have their annual meeting, but they have other times that if somebody were interested, I can put you in contact with the folks in charge.
We did discuss at the select board, turning it over to the road manager as a function? No?
No.
Okay.
Please.
Would there be somebody from the Historical Society?
Well, the Historical Society would be ideal. I have talked to Reggie about it, because they are interested in getting a historical marker
Yeah.
along Route 49. We've got a couple of turnouts that are already there that could be used. I think if we got the North Country Council's scenic byways group to look at a couple of them, they might be able to help us. And to White Mouse property before because of Route 2 and 302 and everything else have worked with the bureaucracy, so have them call, email, if they're interested.
Society, it's an action item, it was an action item.
I suppose, I mean,
And-
well,
Just see if that would be the
Yeah,
natural place.
Just to throw it out
Yeah,
there, we have 2 vacancies for our North Country Council representatives for the town as well.
I've
Well,
done it in the
a
past,
rep
but it's-
And
yeah.
and an alternate position, so if anyone's interested, we can.
But they
sit
meet
down.
almost monthly. That was up
The
there.
executive board meets
Yeah.
on the reps meet twice a year.
My problem was I was doing it and then it interfered with my travel.
So on 8/3/21, Gary, can we put down, reach out to historical?
Who's going to do that?
Or if needed.
No, we were interested in becoming the
Town rep.
the town represent, if anyone on the
to
historical
the
side,
scenic
the scenic byway.
Would that be?
Yeah, who, I didn't
the
hear
chair or
who
the
was,
Secretary?
I didn't
Right.
hear who
Yes.
was gonna reach out to the Historical Society.
Well, I meet with the historical
They
society
have a
all the
meeting
time.
soon. They have their annual meeting coming up, we go to that.
Are you volunteering?
Yeah, I would say John, just as chair, just as the chair.
Probably the chair.
I'd rather have-
Just
Okay,
see if. A representative.
Yep, okay.
Where are we?
20, wait a minute, we got one more. 8.4.2. I think,
Mountain National Forest.
well, I think that's an action item we already identified that Mark and I will talk and check on the status.
okay.
You
Okay,
said just when you get notice of, or, yeah. Oh. So now, was there others?
I
We're
think,
back to
I think
8.5.
that's it.
Okay, 5 what?
8, 5, 9, and 10.
That one?
Yeah, I know.
Wait, 8, no.
You do number 10.
I think that. Yeah. 9 is ongoing.
Yeah.
Nine is ongoing, okay.
Have we? Private roads? I don't recall anything coming out of the.
I
board.
think 16 is the next one with the
Well,
planning
we
board in the
had-
lead. And we have been doing that.
About 10.
So wait, what about 10?
The only thing I can think of is Stone Tower Lane.
Did I miss 10? Oh, yep. We,
Mark, what-
yeah, I put on going. I put on going for 10.
Great.
Okay,
And 16 stormwater. Again,
That's ongoing.
It's that-
This
16
is,
down.
number 17 would be in the site plan regulation work that we'll be doing.
Okay,
so wait a minute, can we go back to 16 for a minute?
yeah, that's what she was saying, 16 and 17 together.
Oh, okay,
16, we've been incorporating in notices of decision that it incorporates the inspection plan in their alteration of terrain permit. When it's a big project, so that's when we do 16. 17, I think, is gonna be in these site plan regulation amendments.
oh, okay. All right. Got it.
Eighteen is ongoing.
Ongoing, yeah. I mean,
14.
18 kicked off a lot of the things you're doing, but your newer members may not have seen it.
right, and
Yeah.
some of it comes into opposition with the local ideas. I remember Jenny Lucas came here to voice her opinion about
The multi-use pack,
multi-use pack.
yes. But it's still being considered. I mean, I
So
think it's
I
on,
think the action item might be to share with new members.
I think it's on, is it on the town website? I think if you go to Find It Fast on the town
Yes, it
website.
is. I looked at it.
That
There.
study, I think it's there. If not, just search on pedestrian study and it'll pop up.
It has
Rather
the-
long
It
document.
had the lighting plan for
Yeah.
like the village trail down to the river, the signage.
Right,
stuff, all that.
conceptual designs of the roads and so forth, and the whole thing that we spent $90,000 on.
So I'm gonna put new members to become familiar, because it really is the guiding document for a lot of your work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the work that we've done together.
So, that was a pedestrian study, yes?
Yep.
So could we put that in there, because I think somewhere along the way, that's how it's listed as pedestrian study.
Yeah.
Was
So
it
this-
SC VHB pedestrian village study, number 18?
Number 18,
Is that what you're talking about, John?
that is what, that is.
Yeah,
the
that's what it's
pedestrian
called.
study.
Yeah, but pedestrian village study, got it, yep.
I know it's really painful, but, um. All of the work that are planning. The roads. Another that are coming. I'd really. This board take a special meeting and just talk about that plan. And consider whether or not you would want it updated. And potentially go back to SE Group for a proposal, because we run in all the time, like someone brought up all the comments that Jenny had. We get, it's not just her, it's
Right,
other people
Yep.
as well. We have a lot of new people in town since we did that study, and to relook at that and potentially update it might be a good idea.
I think
Before we
that's a great
spend
idea.
another $2 or $3 million.
Cause people wanna slow people down coming into the valley, and we've
There's
talked about
all-
what, like the chicanes and the
Yeah.
raised things and the.
Which we've tried in the
Talk about all the
past
time.
and have been hated. and now might be, you know, the
Limiting.
signage thing,
Yeah.
the board is going slow. It is different than what's in the plan, so I think a comprehensive look at that plan and a discuss. Know what you guys are thinking, because it's hard to come up with a plan and then have everybody shoot holes all through it. Because we didn't know what you saw.
It's
Yeah, it's.
So
I think
let's have a special
2015,
meeting to discuss it. It's there for everyone to review.
That's right.
Well, would everyone be okay if we just put this on the June agenda just to start it?
I
Just the
think we
plans
need a
for-
whole separate, this is.
Well, so we can start the conversation as to a to
That-
separate meeting.
Get it and let's, good idea, John, because that'll
Yeah.
give you an idea of how long you think the special meeting might be and
Yeah.
if you're gonna have one.
Yeah, yeah.
February 2015 is what it's
15.
stated as on the thing. Totally different board, except, yeah, there's no overlap,
Okay.
except for Nancy.
Nancy,
Are any of the comments that you've received positive?
we get positive comments.
Okay,
There are
good.
people who love what we've done.
Good.
Feels like a committee to me.
Well, but maybe that's what you talk about in June.
Yeah.
is whether or not
We'll
the
talk
staff
about it in
works.
June, so we don't take up time.
Which is
now.
next week. I
Yeah,
mean.
next
And
week.
actually, it's funny because maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I just received an email out of the blue from SC Group that said, hey, how are things going with the pedestrian plan? Do you
Okay,
need anything? So it might be a good time to re-engage them.
okay.
Okay.
So,
There's also on the, is a whole list of the stakeholders that were involved, that
Yeah.
they gave special mention to, and there are a few that are still in here, but, you know. people
yeah,
might
most,
not
a
know.
lot of those have changed as well.
It's driven things more than the master plan as far as. Development in the
The
valley
actual physical work that we're doing.
in the last 10 years
Yeah.
or 9 years.
Okay,
Good, thank you.
yeah, Tara, that looks good with number 18.
So we've reached 11 o'clock, does that mean we have to stop, or should we keep going?
Well, we're nearly finished.
You wanna keep going? We got,
We're almost done.
we're pretty
10
close.
here.
Said optimistic.
8.5.20, is that where we're at?
No, well, that's more of a town working group.
Would that be ongoing?
That's,
Actually,
Planning board's not in now.
we're not in.
right, right.
21.
But that is
21.
your working group, so that
Yes.
Yeah,
But ongoing for sure.
ongoing, yeah. 21, I think, is gonna be developer driven.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, 22 we've done, right?
We're
Yeah.
doing.
We're doing it, it's a more attractive village core, wow.
The select board is doing the parking, right? Like no parking per order of select board or temporary parking.
It's always the pop-up, we did change our zoning, right?
Yep.
To,
Good.
to share
Be more
that flexible
flexible.
parking.
Yeah.
Whether it.
It's been
has
done
led to
twice,
what
once
will-
introduce it and again to
Yeah.
make it even more flexible, so, yeah.
Eight, 5, 26. CIP really, right?
Yeah.
That will
this
be a big thing,
This
yeah.
isn't, yeah, this is big money here.
And that's been the issue,
Where, when, and how?
so, I mean, we'll have to.
Would it,
decide at some point.
would the Parks and Rec Department drive it and the CIP committee incorporate it? Is that,
Yeah, Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, no? I mean, we do discuss it every year.
I mean, 27 isn't really
No. it's
Packard's
not.
feeler than like stormwater, right?
Not the main.
So ongoing.
I would move down to
32.
32.
No.
No.
I think the planning board didn't really end up with a role in this work on Corcoran Pond, right?
The CIP, we talked about it and
It's in the CIP,
prioritize.
it's in the CIP.
Yeah.
And we have it in. To get a detailed,
Yeah, and that's gonna be next selectmen's meeting.
Yeah,
oh, okay,
It's on the agenda.
Is that on the agenda?
The engineers are coming in. to
Oh,
talk
that's right.
about it.
that's right.
would, oh. Is the conservation, not really,
No. No, but the Conservation Commission, because of the Snowsbrook remediation project, that's part of the.
It's kind of-
Corcoran Pond
You're upstream.
project.
it kind of runs into Bella.
I see what you
Go
did
figure.
there.
Not that bad. You've been waiting all day for that? Yeah.
It flows.
Alright, so. 33,
Where are we now?
provide a back, 33,
8533?
yeah. Provide a backup power supply for the DPW garage and maintenance bay salt shed.
We don't have a lead on that, the
No.
planning board does it.
Yeah, not until we do the treatment plan.
And what will we have to say about it?
I think that probably should have said CIP committee.
Okay,
I think that's my mistake.
26, 27. That's good.
that's a huge conversation.
Or another. Yeah,
Alright, so 34, 853,
33, we're gonna have CIP, 34.
evaluate options for relocating.
Yeah, I think that should have been CIP committee too.
Okay,
I don't, I must have gotten tired when I did this 2 years ago. 'Cause these are all CIP committee.
yep,
37 as well.
37 CFP. And it is on, all of this is ongoing.
39 is done.
38 above.
You're getting ahead
Let-
of me.
let Tara get caught up here a little
Oh,
bit.
sorry.
Did you want ongoing at 37 ongoing?
Yes,
Yep,
it's part of the treatment plan project.
We did the inspection last year, didn't we? 38?
It happens every 5 years,
Right, didn't we do it last year?
2 years.
2 years. It's the CIP.
Hmm.
39 is done.
39 is complete.
Okay.
Actually,
wow. 40,
only took 10 minutes.
These three.
okay.
And the next one is
40 is CIP.
40 is CIP.
it's
Where,
ongoing.
It's
what's the
ongoing.
status of 40?
It's
Ongoing.
ongoing, we are working on it right now.
$41. Do we need more space?
Someday we will.
Someday.
Well, no, we need space and we need some improvements at the cemetery, so
Yeah.
CIP.
Right. But I don't think we've taken any steps.
We
to
have not
secure-
taken any steps. yet.
Secure additional town cemetery. We've talked about it at the select.
Yeah.
But we've not,
You know where?
Hmm?
Like just in that same area?
Hmm.
Okay.
but we'd have to purchase it from the next door private
Yeah.
landowner.
Oh.
Is
Forest
that-
isn't gonna give it to us, right?
Yeah, the Forest Service isn't giving us.
Is
And they don't
that in
have
the
any
works
land
or?
to use.
No, we haven't, we've discussed it, but we haven't done more,
Okay.
anything other than discuss it at the select board. We haven't gone beyond that at this point.
Does the landowner or whatever,
No, not yet.
No, we've just, well, if they listen to the public meeting, they hear that we were,
well, everybody does.
right, of course,
Everybody.
Well, if everybody is 60 people,
yeah.
or you guys are getting together in groups and whatnot.
So 41 is still to be done. I mean, I don't know how, how we wanna phrase that.
Since it's not a planning board lead, we don't need to put anything.
Okay, right, and select board has discussed it, but done nothing more.
And then the last one, 42.
42.
Is
that us?
ongoing, actually, we've
Yeah.
made several improvements over the last couple of years and we're making them right now, transitioning to the cloud.
Well,
There you
and
go.
AI for the meeting minutes and.
AI for the. But from a security standpoint, we're upgrading hardware and software to be more secure.
That's kind of huge, isn't
It
it?
is. It's huge.
Yeah.
People forget their passwords all the time.
Yep, two-factor authentication. Do you know how much I hate Russian hackers? Like,
Yeah, no,
the most despised people in the world.
yeah, I work for Spear, but I work at the college. And I have to do time.
Reached the end.
Yeah, that's the end. Planning board stuff.
Derek,
It's on the way.
do we wanna engage any of the other lead elements and see what their input to this would be? I mean, how would we, since this is our document, should we not talk to others?
I guess,
Do we have
I mean,
other lead?
I would try next year to do the joint meeting.
Okay. But I mean, the
Well,
town manager, select board, we can put our stuff in, because we've done some of these things. We didn't discuss, we didn't
Right.
discuss them here.
So if
Yeah.
you'd like, I could send this spreadsheet to Mark for the select board to do, to
Yeah,
add
because I think
to.
Conservation Commission and the Select Board should go through it as well. Their lead on a lot of the things.
Yeah.
So they should go through this
Yeah.
same exercise. And I'd recommend that the joint meeting happen earlier than the spring, because if we do it in the spring, then you really are using 2025 as the start point. If everybody does an all the different boards do evaluations, and you get together in October or November as a joint meeting, then we can put things into the 25 budget. Otherwise, you're gonna be talking about the 26 budget before you even start. So, something like potentially doing an upgrade of the pedestrianization plan,
Mm.
like, is that something you wanna have in the works before the treatment plant really hits? Because if you wait till 26,
Nothing's getting.
you're gonna have that 9,000-pound gorilla.
Yep.
So I mean, definitely, select board, definitely conservation commission, but there are a couple others. I mean, there are things here that the community power committee has done
That's right.
that they,
Oh, but the select board. Town core working group, we can bring it up at the meeting and have them go through their items.
Yeah.
And give you guys input on what they think.
but then this year,
Yeah,
the joint meeting.
that's the way I would do it.
So I went up and
Otherwise, you're
changed
not gonna
it
be
to
able to
fall
implement.
2024.
Great.
I already made a note. For
Good.
October, November
Yeah.
this year.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll see everybody next week.
Maybe. Kara, is there anything else we need to do in the master plan, Kara? I have one item from the select board I'd like to
Yeah.
bring up.
I think, Megan,
We should be-
we covered all the planning board items, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I think we're set
Okay.
with that then.
okay. Rich Rita, you had something you wanted to discuss,
I had-
Bromley Select Board, is that correct?
Yes, so yesterday, the select board at its regular meeting discussed a request that it received from a resident with regard to changing the noise ordinance. This is an outgrowth of the decision by the planning board to approve the development of 2 pickleball courts at formerly the maintenance area of the golf course. Much of what the resident is requesting actually falls under the purview of the planning board because it would require zoning changes. So I would like to pass this off to the, I'm not passing the buck yet, but pass this off for initial primary look by the planning board, because the planning board needs to make some decisions as to whether it wants to go down this path. I think before the select board will get involved in implementing anything. So I have it in front of me and I'd like to give it to the chair, the review, and then at some point add it as an agenda item for discussion.
Okay.
It's an extensive list of things, of zoning changes and regulation changes based on
Right,
those
there's 2
zoning
parts,
changes.
the ZO and the
Regulation change, but the ZO, I think, has to drive it first,
Yes, that's right.
so that's what I'm trying to say,
Sure,
so.
got it.
I'll give you my copy and I'll get another copy whenever I pass that along,
Okay.
so.
All right,
This is one of the outcomes of our decision
Okay,
to approve. Change the noise ordinance.
all right, and this is from the select board.
Well, it's from, the
It went
the
from-
resident.
It went from. a
His
select-
name.
Right, hang on
Yeah.
1 minute, hang on 1 minute,
Mhm,
let me ask a question.
mhm,
This came from a resident to the select board.
correct,
The select board wants us to review it, to get back to you.
yes, because much of what he's requesting is actually a planning board function as
Understood,
it relates to zoning amendments.
okay, got it.
Mr. Chair, can you, after you've read that,
Disseminated.
scan it and disseminate it?
Absolutely,
We'll send you a
transparency is
electronic
for
copy.
sure.
Can I have a copy?
And we just need to schedule.
Everyone
I
should
mean,
get a
for-
copy.
Yeah,
Thank you.
prior to our discussion, whenever you decide to add it to the agenda.
Sure, okay. We'll do that. Any further business?
Having some big, maybe.
Oh, the town assessor.
Yeah, the tax assessment.
Is that in?
Is that?
What's the-
Have to line up, don't we, for that?
Well, he's available in June if you wanted to come in.
Next week.
Yes. Reserve that date to come in and talk to you about it.
All right, everyone good with that?
Yes.
Next
Okay.
week.
Motion to adjourn.
And
Well,
so I had,
well,
I had asked,
I'll do that.
1 second, I had asked Alicia to hand out something before you adjourn,
I
that's
have it here, yes.
for next week's meeting. I did my homework, so getting it in your hands with time to read it for next week's meeting.
So this is what Tara's talking about. Everyone's gonna get a copy right now. Homework, kind of what it is. Okay.
Just split the pile in half and send it
Okay.
one way.
Yeah. Agreed. Well,
Right.
we'll see what happens.
Got it.
Everyone's got a copy?
Yep.
Any further discussion, Mark? Nothing? Tara, you good?
Good.
You're all set?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second that?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Hey.
Thank you very much for coming today.
Just